Welcome back to our verse-by-verse study of Shakespeare's sonnets. Last time, in Sonnet 34, we watched Abraham beget Isaac and traced the blessing that follows a father's passing. Sonnet 35 carries the lineage forward one generation into the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah and the birth of Esau and Jacob. As always, we read the sonnet not as Petrarchan love poem addressed to a young man, but as a Kabbalistic exegesis, a devotional meditation encoded by its true author, Emilia Bassano-Lanier, whose Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum functions as a hermeneutical key that unlocks this architecture, drawn in large part from Zohar. Our commentary today rests on Zohar 1, 136a to 1, 138a, and Zohar Midrash Hanilim 1, 136b to 139a, the Zoharic material for the Torah portion of Toledot. I'm Peter Matthews. Welcome to this lecture. Sorry I'm a little bit off colour today and my voice a little bit croaky, so I've kept this lecture brief. I've had a few complications since the bull attack in April, but I am still slowly recovering. Let's begin by reading the sonnet. No more be grieved at that which thou hast done. Roses have thorns, and silver fountains mud. Clouds and eclipses stain both moon and sun, and loathsome canker lives in sweetest bud. All men make faults, and even I in this, authorizing thy trespass with compare, myself corrupting, salving thy amiss, excusing thy sins more than thy sins are. For to thy sensual fault I bring in sense. Thy adverse party is thy advocate, and against myself a lawful plea commence. Such civil war is in my love and hate, that I an accessory needs must be to the sweet thief which sourly robs from me. So we'll open the first quatrain, the rose and the mud. The Torah tells us that Isaac married Rebekah at 40, Genesis 25 verse 20. But Zohar 1, 136b insists she was only 3 years old at her betrothal, a detail confirmed halically by Mishnah Nida 5.4, which permits betrothal by intercourse from age 3 plus 1 day. Emilia, who was herself given in marriage as a young woman, writes from personal experience, no more grieved at that which thou hast done. Rebekah is figured as the rainbow within this text, green for Tif'eret in the tree of life, even though it's actually a yellow colour. Throughout the Zohar, you have slightly changes in the colours, and this is the effect on different people and the effect on how it functions at the time. So Tif'eret is a hue of green, Hesed white, and Gevurah red. The earthly vessels of Shekinah, consummated with Jacob being Tif'eret. She is the rose of Israel in the sequence, echoed in Beauty's Rose in Sonnet 1 or Beauty's Legacy in Sonnet 4. Esau, by contrast, is ruddy, red, Gevurah, red at birth and covered with thick hair, Genesis 25:25. The firstborn of Gevurah, representing unmixed judgment. Roses have thorns, naming the klipot, the impulse hast, or the evil impulse that conceals the rose's brilliance, drawn from Song of Songs 2, 1-2. Like a rose amongst thorns, so is my beloved among the maidens. Then we turn to and silver fountains muds, which is actually Rebekah's genealogy, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean from Paddan Aram, and the sister of Laban the Aramean, Genesis 25 verse 20. Silver is an emblem of Judaism, though it comes with mud, just as the rose comes with thorns. Rebekah was the daughter of Bethuel the deceiver, like a deceitful bone of a serpent. Paddan Aram as a pair of deceivers, like the two leeches in Lot's daughters. It refers to the two evil powers or the two evil demons that are aroused by the body's desire. We know Isaac was living by the well Lahar Roy, Genesis 24:62. Now, all of the English translations of the Bible are actually slightly flawed because they misinterpret the Hebrew word Beel, transliterated as beer in most translations. It actually means well, talking about spring, a well, not in, written in most of the English translations. Emilia understood the Hebrew meaning, for she believed Isaac was dwelled by the well of Lahar Roy, consorting with Shekinah, living in both worlds, eclipsing them, even stain both moon and sun, if we want to be precise to the sonnet. According to Emilia, uniting Isaac's darkness, which is from Gevurah in the Tree of Life, with Rebekah's night, Gevurah also, represents judgment in the world. Then we turn to quatrain 2. All men make faults, and even I in this, authorizing thy trespass with compare, myself corrupting, salving thy amiss, excusing thy sins more than thy sins are. Zohar Adash Midrash Anilim 137b traces Rebekah's barrenness to the two evil impulses called Leah or Leah, weary, and alternatively to a word simply short of prayer. Hence, a loathsome canker lives in sweetest bud. When Emilia writes, all men make faults, and even I in this, the I is not the poet's beloved, but actually God himself, who required Isaac's plea before granting Rebekah conception, Genesis 25:21. Zohar 137b reads this plea as Isaac digging through the wall of heaven in prayer until Yud-He-Vav-He let himself be entreated. Quite an interesting portion, this. Here Emilia draws on Antonio Bassano's 1544 Sefer HaRufot, or the Book of Remedies, alongside Midrash HaNilim al-Rut, or the portion on the Book of Ruth, which locates three sovereign organs in the body, salving thy amiss. What is this referring to? It's talking about mind, heart, and liver, a Galenic triad Emilia applies to devotion itself. It's extremely clever. Most people miss it. Without tears, we act only from the brain's impulse, never the heart's depth or the liver's purification. True teshuva, true repentance requires all three. To the third quatrain, civil war in the womb. For to thy sensual fault I bring in sense. Thy adverse party is thy advocate, and against myself a lawful plea commence. Such civil war is in my love and hate, and against myself a lawful plea commence. Restates Isaac's granted plea, Genesis 25 verse 20. Such civil war is in my love and hate, is the war of the twins within Rebekah. Esau being the liver, responsible for nutrition and growth, against Jacob, the heart, because Isaac himself proceeds from Gevurah. The firstborn Esau arrives very red and covered with thick hair, Genesis 25:25, while Jacob is born grasping his brother's heel, Genesis 25:26. Thy adverse party is thy advocate. It's actually naming the evil impulse itself as an advocate for procreation. And for Esau, favoured for a time by a father who shared his Gevurah. Now, just a little side note I thought I'd mention. I think it's important in this situation as we continue through. If the first drop of seed, and I'm sure you get what I'm saying when I talk seed, produced Isaac's own nature, Gevurah, the second drop produced Jacob, Tif'eret, inheriting Abraham's hesed, his loving kindness, leaving Esau void of hesed altogether. What does it leave? It leaves the scum of the silver foundation, the mud. Esau is described as the scheming, hairy demon. This is distinctly Jewish Kabbalistic imagery. Petrarch's fountains never run silver. Silver is Jewish. A silver Kiddush fountain is a ceremonial serving set used for the Jewish blessing over wine on Shabbat and other holidays. I mean, couldn't people work this out? It's pretty easy stuff, this sort of thing. I found the source documents, and that's why I was able to decode all of these mysteries. Esau grows into a hunter of the field. Jacob, a quiet temperament, turns to the Torah. Galen's heart draws towards holy sustenance, the liver towards impurity. Now to the couplet. That I an accessory needs must be to the sweet thief which sourly robs from me. Drawing on Zohar of Mantua 139a, Emilia reads Esau as a man of the field who traps not game but his own righteous father with words. Shekinah, bound to Isaac at the well, perceives the deception. To thy sensual fault I bring incense. This is talking about the five senses from Salve Deus. Yet withholds a warning, consenting instead to the blessing that falls to Jacob, excusing their sins more than their sins are. The final couplet casts Jacob as a lawful accessory in outmaneuvering his brother, figured as the serpent of Genesis 3:1, so that Esau, that sweet thief which sourly robs from me, can trouble him no further in this world or the world to come. Emilia had already used this same imagery of theft in her own work of Salve Deus in the author's dream to Ladie Marie, the Countess Dowager of Pembrooke. But thou base cunning thief, that robs our spirits of half that span of life, which years doth give in slumber's bower, thou stealest away our breath. The recurrence of the thief who robs the soul under the cover of sleep, in her poem and in the sonnet alike, is exactly the kind of internal fingerprint that Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum equips us to trace back to its Zoharic source. Why does this matter for authorship? I think it's worth pausing just for a brief moment and looking at this, because a poem that merely borrowed biblical names for ornament would not require Mishnah Nida, two separate Zohar strata, and a 16th century Sephardic medieval text to make sense of 4 lines. But Sonnet 35 actually requires all 3 in precise sequence The Torah portion Toledot itself follows: betrothal, barrenness, birth, and blessing withheld. That precision tells against reading this as generic Petrarchan convention borrowed by a poet with no access to rabbinic literature, and tells for a writer immersed in the Bassano family's Jewish inheritance, composing Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum as a companion key to her own sonnets. I think that is important. Sonnet 35 completes the portrait of Toledot begun in Sonnet 34, the barren woman, the answered plea, and the two natures, liver and heart, Gevurah and Tif'eret, locked in civil war before either twin draws breath. Next time we follow Jacob further as the blessing Esau despises begins to take its course. We will investigate the Messiah and the resurrection of the dead. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next lecture.